People are wrong about each other constantly. Not wrong in the ways they argue about, not wrong about who was right in the disagreement or whose version of events holds up. That kind of wrong is loud and accounts for itself at length. The wrong I'm talking about is quieter. It happens before anyone's opened their mouth. It settles in so fast it never gets examined, because by the time it could be examined, it's already become the thing the person is certain of. It happens in every room, to every kind of person, with a consistency that feels, across all these years, almost like a law. The first is appearance. The coat arrives before the person does, in a sense. Whatever they're wearing, the state of it, the cut of it, the expense or lack of expense, the way it's been cared for or hasn't, that information reaches the room before anything else. And the room, without discussion, begins to assemble a picture. I receive every coat without preference. The worn one and the expensive one go on my hook the same way. They weigh the same to me. They are, to me, identical. The room doesn't find them identical. I've watched people receive the expensive coat and the scruffy coat with a different quality of attention. Not consciously in most cases, not with any intention behind it, just a slightly different settling, a slight calibration of expectation, a small internal prediction about what kind of person is on the way, before a single word has been exchanged. And then the person arrives, and the picture the coat assembled is, with a frequency that should give everyone pause, wrong. Not a little wrong, often significantly, entirely, embarrassingly wrong. The scruffy coat on the doctor, the expensive coat on the person who has nothing else, the rough exterior on the careful mind, the polished surface on the careless one. The coat isn't the person. I've held enough of them to be certain of this. The coat is just what they were wearing that day, in that weather, in those circumstances, for reasons that had nothing to do with the room they were walking into. The picture the room assembled will persist, though, even after the evidence has contradicted it. People update their pictures slowly and incompletely, and against resistance. The first impression doesn't give up its ground easily. The second thing people reliably get wrong is the reason someone was short with them. Someone arrives in a state, tired or worried about something that has nothing to do with this room, or caught at the end of a day that has taken more than they had. And they are, for a moment, short, clipped. Not unkind exactly, but not warm either. A curtness that doesn't stop to explain itself, because the person carrying it isn't thinking about how it lands. They're still in whatever came before the door. And across the room, someone receives it. The receiving is instant, and it's personal. The person on the other end doesn't think, "They seem to be carrying something today." They think, "What did I do?" Or, "That's what they think of me." They'll spend time on this, more time than it deserves, and far more time than the person who was short with them will spend, because that person has moved on. They've had lunch, spoken to someone who made them laugh, and by mid-afternoon, the morning has receded. They're not thinking about the exchange at all. The person on the receiving end is still with it at dinner. Almost nobody in a bad mood is thinking about you. They're thinking about the thing that put them in the bad mood, which was, almost certainly, something that happened before you. The curtness wasn't personal. It had your name on it only because you were standing there when it arrived. The room would be a significantly kinder place if this were better understood. The third thing is consistency. People assume, without quite deciding to, that the person they see in this room is the person that person is. Everywhere, always, under all conditions. as though the version who shows up on a Tuesday evening is the complete and representative edition. I've watched the same person come through that door across many years and many circumstances. And what I can tell you is that people are radically, astonishingly different from one version of themselves to another. The quiet one in this room is the loud one in another. The hesitant one here is decisive somewhere else. The one who seems not to care is the one who, in different company, cares most precisely and well. I'm the single fixed point of reference. I don't change. I've no other context to be different in. Whatever I am here, I am everywhere, because everywhere is here for me. It gives me an unusual appreciation for how much context does to a person. The version you're seeing isn't wrong. It's just one of many true versions, assembled for this room, in these circumstances, on this particular day. To take it as the whole is not a reading. It's a sketch. The fourth thing is the assumption that different means wrong, or worse. I've watched someone come through that door doing something entirely ordinary, but doing it in a way the room didn't recognize. A different way of greeting, a different understanding of how close to stand, or how long to hold an eye, or when silence is companionable and when it's meant to carry something. Conventions so local that nobody in the room thought of them as conventions at all, thought of them simply as how things are done, because they'd never watched someone do them differently. And the room, without meaning to, read the difference as error. The word that came, quietly, was wrong. Not as a judgment exactly, but as a register. This isn't how things are done. What the room rarely sees is that the person doing things differently has, in almost every case, arrived from a room where their way was simply how things are done. Not wrong, not right, just theirs. As local and unconsidered as the room's. Two rooms meeting, neither aware it's a room. What the room reads as threatening is almost always just different. The machinery that converts different into suspect is very old and very fast, and it doesn't announce itself. It simply produces a feeling that arrives already dressed as knowledge. The knowledge isn't knowledge. It's a room talking to itself. The last thing is what people believe about faces. There's an assumption so widespread it almost never gets examined that the face tells the truth, that what a person's expression shows is what's actually happening inside them, that the face is a window, and that looking through it carefully will tell you what the room needs to know. I've a face, a lion's face, bronze, heavy-browed, expression fixed by whoever cast it. I didn't choose what it communicates. I know what it does to a room when someone notices it for the first time. Fierce to some, regal to others, faintly comic to a few. None of those readings have anything to do with what I actually am. The casting left me with this face. It's not a window. It's a surface. I'm simply what's behind it. And I've watched, from behind this face, person after person misread person after person. The face that reads as unfriendly, but is, in fact, simply still. The flat expression of someone whose culture taught them that composure is respect, being read as hostility by a room that learned the opposite. The eyes that don't hold contact being read as evasion, when the person behind them was taught that holding a stranger's gaze is an imposition. The face pulled tight with effort or pain being read as anger. The smile that doesn't reach the eyes being read as genuine. The face isn't a window. It's a surface. What it shows is partly the interior, and partly the learning, and partly the day, and partly the effort being made for this specific room, and partly things that have nothing to do with any of it. This is where the wrongness goes deepest, because the face feels like evidence. It feels like the most direct line to the truth of a person. And so the reading of it feels like knowledge rather than inference. And knowledge stops looking. Inference keeps going. The face is an inference. There's more in the room than the room usually knows. More in the coat, more behind the curtness, more across the contexts, more underneath the different, more beyond the face. A great deal more than any first reading can hold. And the room that knows this, even dimly, even imperfectly, is a different room than the one that doesn't. I'll still be here when you get back.